Hello, everyone. So today I'd like to talk about being constant on the spiritual path. Now, to be constant on the spiritual path, you must understand it. You must understand where you come from, why you believe what you believe, and where you're going. Now, a lot of the time when our spiritual goal is something that's so grand like enlightenment, liberation, moksha, or union with God, how whatever you want to say, it's kind of like gazing from a valley onto the peak of a mountain, seeing that peak of the mountain as being so far away after this grand dip in the path that we're about to travel through a jungle unknown, but trying to get to that peak all the same so we can see where the peak is. But it involves having the heart to trek through the entire valley of the unknown before we even start to ascend the mountain to the peak that we wish to basically get to. Now, there are certain basic virtues within anyone's path that we must follow in order to remain constant on our spiritual path. One of them is patience. We must be patient with ourselves. We must be patient with, you know, the practices that we have decided are the ones that will lead us to that peak of the mountain. And the wisdom that we gain through patience and through constant study. This is very important, constant study on whatever path, whether it be the scripture of the Bible or the Quran or the Torah or the Puranas, the Bhagavad Gita, uh, any kind of books on Theravada if you're Buddhist, or Mahayana Buddhism, Zen Buddhism. There's all kinds of different Buddhist texts if you're Buddhist, and I study them even though I'm Hindu. But the Bhagavad Gita and a lot of works like those by Paramahansa Yogananda. Since I'm Hindu, I really delve into them quite a bit. And Swami Vivekananda produces a lot of works that talk about, Raja Yoga and Karma Yoga and the ways that we conquer ourselves within so that we can interact and connect with the world without. But there's a lot of text to delve into in Hinduism, and in other religions I don't know as many texts. But knowledge and the study of knowledge from those who have come before us is very important. And that aids wisdom just like the patience with your spiritual practices does. Now, when you look at yourself in the mirror, you have to think of yourself as being that person who can work towards the ultimate goal of your spiritual belief system. Now, spirituality is something that begins within, it is not something that begins externally. You have to have some kind of connection with that with that part of yourself that is eternal. It's very hard to nail down what it feels like for that eternal part of yourself to really connect to something that is without, to a greater understanding, a greater magnitude that is God without. But there's always that connection within. It's not that you are separate. It's not that we are separate from God. It is that we are separate from the understanding of God that allows us to work towards grander unification. Um, People in the world are very, as a general rule, are very focused on their culture and their understanding of God in relation to their understanding of the soul. They think that their soul is very much connected to tradition. Tradition in many different parts of the world, in all parts of the world, is what anyone in that part of the world focuses on mainly. There are of course many people in different parts of the world that do not follow the general tradition that they find around them, but human beings are very much like herd animals if they don't examine themselves. When people start to examine themselves, they start to see that they are actually unique from those around them. And then that's when our spiritual path expands to where we eventually find that that line of thought, that spirituality, that religion that will lead us back to ourself, that will lead us home. And our true self, God, is always connected to even this present moment of consciousness. Our consciousness at this time, our consciousness as this person that we find ourselves being is connected to God, is connected to the source of all things, is connected to the source of the multiverse itself. Just because we're a small human being just because we are a tiny piece, that doesn't mean we have any less of a connection than an entire universe, entire planet especially, or an entire religious or spiritual understanding in relation to that source. Now, when we gaze upon other people with different beliefs, when their culture is obviously different, when their understanding is different, when their symbols that they wear are different, it's hard for us to understand their perception of God when we have our own. When we have decided, okay, we are correct, and their understanding of God is inferior. Maybe not completely incorrect, but inferior. So we look away from them. We look only into our own understanding at the moment. But if we truly looked into other people, if we truly looked into those with different beliefs than us, then we would see an element of ourselves. We would see why we started our path. And we would find our way back to that innocence of accepting that we truly don't know who we are. We truly don't know what we believe, and the path in spirituality, no matter what path you follow, no matter what spiritual path you follow, no matter what religious path you follow, that path is always pure when we decide, when we accept that we do not truly know. And once we accept that, and we can accept that every day, we can work from that point every day, then our path, our spiritual path, expands to greater and greater degrees. But I think I've talked enough for this one video. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video at all, hit that thumbs up down there. It really helps out the channel, and I hope to see all of you in the future. Thank you very much, and y'all have a great day.